Welcome back. Well, the South African manufacturing sector managed to raise its head above water after a prolonged contraction. The Absa Purchasing Managers Index succeeded in breaking into expansionary territory for the first time in 9 months. Now, can manufacturers sustain this momentum? Absa CIB economist Sello Sekele joins us now with more insights. Thank you so much for your time, Sello. Yeah, this is quite a milestone with the PMI now in expansionary territory. Talk to me about the level of growth and confidence that we are seeing here.
Yeah, so as you correctly put it, the sector is raising its head above water. So what we see here is that there was a significant increase in demand, and that demand was followed up with more business activity. So when you look at the details, it was quite interesting, right? Because outside of activity, we also saw some concerning things like prices increasing, and we think that that's partly due to higher fuel prices. And then we saw manufacturers becoming less optimistic about expected business conditions in about 6 months' time. And we know that that's partly as a result of SA not securing a trade deal with the US.
With that demand that saw an uptick, is that both domestic and export, or are there kind of different dynamics playing out there?
Yeah, so from what we can see here, it looks like it's both. One being stronger than the other, but this time around the manufacturers were not that forthcoming with the detail, whether it's more domestic or more exports.
Well, I mean, with this increase in demand then, was production and supply able to keep up?
Yeah, so we saw production keeping up, right? And as a result of more activity, we saw supply delivery times lengthening. This is good. You want supply delivery times to lengthen because of more activity, not because of supply chain issues. So I think overall, good developments.
What is actually quite, a dark spot here is the employment index, because that declined. Why, when there was so much activity in the sector?
Yeah, so the way employment behaves is that it only increases in a sustained way if activity has turned a corner in the right direction. So if you would recall, employment did improve recently.
Yes.
But as you say, it went back to contract. Now, it shows that manufacturers want to see a sustained improvement in activity for them to continue increasing their payrolls.
That's actually quite interesting. And I'm just going back to demand in terms of export sales. Did you not see any notable movements there, considering that also the tariff deadline had not come through yet, and there's obviously been a lot of panic about the tariffs, which have not been changed in South Africa? If maybe we saw any kind of front loading there on that point, or did caution override everything?
Yeah, so maybe let me not speak to this print per se, to say generally all over the world, there's been a lot of front loading, right? And, it can seem like there's more demand, but it's more people front loading, at least to avoid the reciprocal tariffs that are quite elevated. So I think in this instance, keeping with the broad theme of what's happening out there, it seems like there has been front loading, at least in recent months, and that's not quite surprising, right? Given the uncertainty.
Yeah. You spoke about the purchasing price index that increased. And we have seen now, because I do note that in the PMI notes, it mentions that the rand stayed below 18 rand against the US dollar, and that was really, really a welcome period for us. But now it is inching closer to 18 rand 40. could we then start to see, I guess, more of an uptick in that purchasing price index going forward? What do you make of that, and maybe just including then, you know, your thoughts on how oil could turn out at this point?
Yeah, so look, it depends, right? So all else equal, if the rand continues to depreciate, we should see price pressures coming through.
Yeah.
But what I must say regarding the rand, the rand inflation relationship is that over time, it looks like that relationship has weakened somewhat.
Okay.
Right? So depreciation in the rand is no longer contributing as much as it did, let's say, 10 years back. That's that's a good thing. But as Absa, we have a view that the rand will appreciate, right? And the year closer to 17. That's our base case. There's a number of things that support that. One of them is interest rate differentials between SA and the US. And it looks like overall the new preference to see inflation being at 3% from the sub is also being viewed as a positive thing, right?
Okay.
So those sort of things can support the rand. But I must also say that if things turn out to be pear-shaped, right, and you saw that there is some sort of extension when it comes to tariffs, those hefty reciprocal tariffs coming through until the 7th of August. If still a lot of countries that are listed there don't reach an agreement with the US, there might be volatility, and it might also come through in other ways like commodity prices that export, that SA import. So it's tough to tell where prices will go, but our baseline is that prices, at least the rise in prices, should come down until the end of this year on the producer side. But on the consumer side, we see CPI inflation rising to about 4% by the end of this year.
All right. Well, we do have to wrap up the conversation there. Thank you so much for your very, very valuable insights, Sello. Really appreciate your time. That was Sello Sekele, economist at Absa CIB.